everybody. I have had a delightful summer working with William, and he has been applying his programming and math knowledge to trying to model how we study stardust. And it's actually been very eye-opening for me about how we might be able to do things much more effectively. And so I think it's been really great. And William has been really fun to work with. He has a slightly wicked sense of humor. I think his parents are both on as well. So, I'm going to let William take it away.
So my project is light spectrum modeling of stardust using differential equations. Introduction to stardust. When sun-like stars become red giants, they form dust grains using atoms from the star. That dust then modifies light that goes through it, depending on the composition of the dust. And finally, since the composition of the dust depends on the composition of the star, we can use that to determine what's inside of the star. Now, the brightness of starlight at different wavelengths changes differently as it interacts with the stardust. My objective was to use differential equations to model this process. This is part of my code, and the main loop is shown. Now for the methodology. The data we have available is A of XL, the absorptivity of the dust for wavelength X and distance L, T of X, the temperature of the dust at distance X, and K, a proportionality constant relating absorption of light to power taken in. We try to calculate these other things. We have B of XL, which is the brightness of the light with wavelength L at distance X, C of XL, the amount of light emitted by the dust at distance X and wavelength L, and P of X, the power taken in by the dust at distance X. These three equations describe how the brightness of the light changes at each wavelength as it moves through dust. The first equation describes the changes in brightness due to absorption and emission by the dust. The second equation describes the power input from the light into the dust through absorption. And the third equation describes how this power is then output via emission of light. To check the model, we compared it against another known working model called Dusty. JavaScript was used to write code for this new model, and Desmos was used to graph the output. And now for the results. At a low optical depth, the model matches almost perfectly with Dusty, which is a radiative transfer model. This is the output of a 3000 Kelvin star with 1000 Kelvin dust. Green is Dusty and white is this new model. At a high optical depth, the model matches excellently, but not as well. Same parameters, except the optical depth has been increased by a factor of 10. And this bump indicates that the dust around the star contains silicates. Now, there are some advantages over Dusty, but there were also limitations. First, for the advantages. This model is more versatile, and it can use data from lab experiments that cannot be used with Dusty. It is also faster with reduced processing time from minutes to seconds. However, and now for the limitations. The reason why the model doesn't fit as well with a high optical depth is because of backheating. Backheating is when the dust decides it wants to be annoying and throws some light back towards the star. This makes it hard to model with the differential equations that I have. Now for some future directions. We can try modifying the differential equations for heat diffusion. Heat diffuses both forwards and backwards, so in a way, backheating is built into the heat diffusion equations. And we can also run the model on real stars. One nice thing about differential equations is that they can be run backwards. We can often estimate the temperature and therefore the input spectrum of the star, but we still need to guess the absorptivity. Thanks to all, Professor Speck's team for the mentorship, and his NASA and free internship for the opportunity. If you want to contact me, you can do so at wayw1226@gmail.com.